All right, class, how are you today? It's Easter vacation, Monday, first day official Easter vacation. Sun outside, mild breeze, 73. Could be working in my garden, but no, I'm recording a lecture for you. Anyway, you're going to start off out of all your list of papers that you have with the FDR and the New Deal. And actually, third period, we got some of this done before we left. I think we got number one. We got done with the the bank failures, but sixth period didn't get to it. So you guys relax. Gonna probably have to split this up into a couple lectures because the most I can get done is about 10 minutes and load up. All right. So starting from the top, FDR and the New Deal, lecture notes. FDR's plan to solve the problems of the Great Depression was known as his New Deal, and he called it a New Deal for the forgotten man. And actually, there's going to be two New Deals, one that took place during his first administration, roughly from 1933 to 1935, and the other one in his second administration when he got reelected in 1936, so about 1936 to 1939, roughly. Okay? Roosevelt did believe it was the government's job to help people in hard times. And we know that that's the major difference between he and the previous president, President Hoover. FDR said it is the government's job. If we don't do it, there's not enough churches, there's not enough charitable organizations to cover the massive damage that this depression has done at that time. So he believed that that was okay to do. Okay? And his New Deal followed a philosophy that we've known called the three R's. And the three R's stand for relief, recovery, and reform. Relief, recovery, and reform. Write those in first, and then I'll tell you what each one means. Starting with relief. Relief meant immediate help now for those people that were without a job, those people that were without a house, those people that needed money just to make it through, the people standing in the soup lines because they couldn't make ends meet. All right? And whether he gave that relief in the form of a job, which was their preference to try to find them a job somewhere, or whether that relief was in form of a handout, a dole is what they call it, D-O-L-E. He's going to create an administration called the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, or FERA. It's the predecessor of today's welfare system, right? And his idea was just, there are some times when people got to have help to make it to the next month, to keep their heat on in the wintertime, to pay their rent, to get their bills paid. And we're going to do it for them, either in the form of a job or we're going to do it with a handout, with a check. All right? So that's immediate relief. And we're going to want to watch programs that kind of fit that bill. The second R was recovery. We need to get out of this Great Depression now. And whatever program will help us do that, pull the economy up, stop bank failures, stop farm failures, to stop business failures, any program that would help that along and get us out of the way. All right, get us out of this depression. And the third R is reform. And reform, class, is permanent change, so that this type of Great Depression would never ever happen again. Safety nets to prevent this kind of disaster from happening again. And as we go through the different programs, you can just ask yourself, is this something that we still have today? And if it is, it was reformed. It started in the Great Depression, but we still have it today. I'll give you a few quick examples that we'll talk about more later. Social Security starts during the Great Depression. We still have that. The Federal Emergency Relief Administration, welfare, starts during the Great Depression. We still have that. FDIC, Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation. We still have that. So those are examples of, FDR said we don't ever want this to happen again, and he kind of tried to look at the causes of the Great Depression. How can we stop that from happening again? So I'll try to mention that as we go through and cover these programs. All right? He and Congress worked together in what was known as the 100 Days to pass all sorts of laws and programs to solve the problems of the Great Depression. I think we went through his inaugural address where he told Congress, I want your cooperation, but if I don't get it, I'm going to do it anyway. And Congress did cooperate. Most of the ideas for the New Deal came from FDR. He had a group of guys that he called his brain trust. Harold Ickes, see, now I'm going to forget all their names because they're not sitting in front of me. Harry Hopkins would be another guy. Hugh Johnson. These were some of his guys that ran the different programs of his New Deal and his brain trust. And he admitted, he goes, it's like a football game. I'm going to try to run a couple plays, and if they don't work, I'll have to try something else. If they work, we'll keep doing them. But admittedly, I mean, he didn't exactly know what was going to work and what didn't work, but we got to try something. And Americans appreciated the fact that he was trying a bunch of different things. All right, first problem he wanted to solve was the banking system. He wanted to try to stop bank failures. Okay, and in the blank, the New Deal sought to stabilize the banking system, prevent the bank closures from continuing as they were. Okay? They did this primarily through the Emergency Banking Act. And all that was, it was a bank holiday. The government closed down the banks for a week. Okay? And the bank holiday that closed all banks for a week, and the government evaluated which ones were stable and could open up again, and which ones were bad. In other words, had made bad loans, didn't have enough money to back them up. And if that's the case, they didn't open back up. All right? So it's a bank holiday to evaluate that. Now, FDR is going to use something. The media of the day is the radio. And he's going to use what he calls fireside chats. And I don't know if he called them a fireside chat or whether that's the name that developed. But the bottom line is he came on the radio 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening after everybody had eaten their dinner and sat around and explained basically what had happened in the bank crisis, that people had panicked and withdrawn their money out of the bank and causing the banks to fail. And what he needed to do was encourage them to put their deposits back in. So the very first fireside chat was all about the banking system and how it works. Kind of like that little video clip that we watched on It's a Wonderful Life. What a run on the bank is, where your money goes when you put it in there, and the fact that everybody can't take all their money out at the same time. And people that heard it, he didn't use highfalutin language. It wasn't really a speech per se. It was just sitting down and talking. And the people that heard us said it was just like my grandpa was giving me advice. And immediately it kind of calmed people's fears. He reassured them that when the banks open up, the government guarantees your deposits, guarantees them with a new program called FDIC. And that's what goes in the second blank, is the Glass-Steagall Act. Say that again. The Glass-Steagall Act, or FDIC, Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation. Okay? And class, this is permanent reform. We still have FDIC today. If you watch any bank commercial or listen to it, commercial, they get those guys that talk a million miles an hour. On any bank commercial, you listen, and the very last thing they say is member FDIC. Okay? Meaning that bank is covered by Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation. If it closes, you will get the majority of your savings back. At the time, I've seen different statistics. Some people say, I've seen it to where it covered up to $2,500 deposit in 1933. I've seen it up to $5,000. I know today that it'll cover up to $150,000 of your deposits in your bank. If the bank closes and you have less than $150,000, you're going to get all your money back. The government will pay you. So FDIC is an example of permanent change. And in asking, was it a successful program, yes or no, we'd have to say yes, because immediately Americans began putting deposits back in the bank. And so billions and billions of dollars got put back in the bank, and we're going to see a little bit of stability in the banking system as we go through there. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and cut off right now, and we'll do another lecture in just a minute here. So this is the first part of the lecture.